Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're about ready to get underway here with our program for looking back at the Grand Canyon Historical Society Awards. Wayne Rainey is going to be first up, and I will follow him with the Hall of Fame Awards. He'll do the Pioneer. I don't think I really need to do a great introduction for you, because unless you've been sitting here tone deaf for the past several hours, you've probably figured out who Wayne Rainey is. But I will tell you this, he's a longtime friend of mine and a colleague, and I couldn't ask for a better one of either. So here's Wayne.
Thank you, Al, for that nice introduction. Before I get started, I just want to tell you some of the details about our silent auction items. The auction is going to end at lunch on Saturday, so you can bid for the next 46 hours or so over there. And this is a fundraiser for the Historical Society. All of the items have been donated either by members or people who are fans of the Historical Society. And Kevin Schindler is over there sitting next to the paintings. Kevin is the one who came up with the idea for a silent auction. This is the first time we've done this, and this is our 6th symposium. I don't think it'll be the last time, because it is a good way to help cover the cost for this. And Kevin has written, please be generous with your bids and feel free to donate to the society even if you don't bid on an item. So there's some encouragement for you. The items must be paid for and picked up on Saturday afternoon. No items will be mailed. So if you are not going to be here on Saturday afternoon, just arrange for one of your proxies to pay it for you. And for the payment options, you have credit card, check, or exact cash. And you can go over there and look at all of the items that we have. Anyway, thank you, Kevin, for organizing this and for doing it. I think it's a great idea. Thank you. So I've been involved with the Grand Canyon Historical Society as a board member since 2011. And when I came on the board back then, Lee Albertson was the person who was in charge of the Pioneer Award. And I'm going to describe to you what the Pioneer Award is. It's probably one of the biggest honors that we give to Grand Canyon historians, people who are passionate about history. Al's going to talk to you about the Hall of Fame Award, which is more about community service to Grand Canyon Village through the years. And both of these are wonderful awards that we do. And the Grand Canyon Historical Society always desires to honor those persons who have made a difference at Grand Canyon, and that's our theme this year. And we've been proactive in recognizing these people. And I do want to tell you that out there in the foyer is where we have the Hall of Fame and the Pioneer Award plaques. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give just a very brief history about the Pioneer Award, and then Al will do the same for the Hall of Fame. I was very happy to see Jim Ullman in the audience. I don't know if he's here, but the board members of the Grand Canyon Pioneer Society at the time that the first award was given are listed here, and Jim Ullman was the president. Jim, are you here or are you on a tour? Oh, too bad he's not here to see his name up on the screen. You can see some of the other people that are there. There were more board members. Steve Verkamp was also on the board. Steve is here at the symposium. Thank you, Steve. There he is right there. The Verkamps, did they have anything to do here at Grand Canyon? I can't remember. And Susie's here too, so you'll want to chat up with them. And also, when this first Pioneer Award was given, Harvey Butchert was considered an emeritus member of the board, and he was involved with the development of the organization of it. So the very first Pioneer Award, and this is what was described in the GCHS Bulletin, Volume 3, Number 7, the Board of Directors of the Grand Canyon Pioneer Society authorized the Pioneer Award at the October 1996 board meeting, and they acknowledged that the Pioneer Award would honor an individual that has made a significant contribution to the understanding of and knowledge about the Grand Canyon of the Colorado. They further stated that the individual honored does not have to be a member of GCPS, that's the Forerunner organization, although we always encourage people to be members, and that the individual honored will have made a significant understanding in the fields of geology, creation. I don't think that means creationism. I think that means the formation of the Grand Canyon. River running, backcountry hiking, photography, history, etc. And they further stated that under normal circumstances, the individual honored would still be active in the field of endeavor and continues to share their knowledge of the Grand Canyon with others, is a mentor, and available to accept the award. And that's very important because after I took over from Lee Albertson, there was a discussion if the person needed to be alive, and I'll mention that in just a moment. Under normal circumstances, an individual would be honored. However, individuals or groups could be honored under unusual circumstances, and also the Pioneer Award may not be given every year. And so in that respect, they were hopeful that we wouldn't necessarily just give it to somebody because it was time to give it to them. So the initial criteria read, and I think I already did that, those who have made a significant contribution to the understanding of and knowledge about the Grand Canyon. And honor about 2016, we fleshed it out a little bit more to say it had to be a living individual. And that's because in 2015, we had some proposals to honor people like Doc Marston, John Wesley Powell, and P.T. Riley. And I was unaware of that initial designation in 1996, but I thought to myself, gosh, if we just dig back into the archives, everybody's going to get a Pioneer Award whose name is published here. We asked it, and lasting contribution of the Colorado River, we added there. And so here are the various members that have won the Pioneer Award through all of the 4 decades that we've been doing this, and 25 individuals have been recognized to date in 23 awards, and that's because more recently we've had 2 couples that received the award, and so that gives us the 25 individuals. The awards were not presented in 4 years since 1997. And as I look at this list right here, I thought to myself, what is it that the board through these 4 decades has been trying to honor? And so what I have done is I noticed that the very first awards, there were sort of 2 different groups of people that I call the explorers. If you look at those names, those are people that were doing lots of backcountry hiking or river running and were very, very accomplished in exploring the inner parts of the Grand Canyon. There is one name in there that's not. Bill Suran was very involved with this organization early on, but not necessarily somebody who was down in the canyon. And then a second group that I noticed in the blue box there are people that have been very active with board service for the Historical Society, or also involved with a lot of the outings that used to happen on a monthly basis. And then finally, towards the top, it's mostly historians and authors that I've outlined there in the purple box. And I realize that there's some overlap with this. You can find people who are historians and authors that might also be explorers or have been active with the organization. But just generally, I started to notice that through the years, they were highlighting different qualities in the persons who received the Pioneer Award. These are the very first 3 recipients from the bottom to the top. The first recipient, Harvey Bouchard, and then Gail Burak. How many people remember Gail Burak? Yeah, a few of you left here that remember Gail. And then George Steck in 1999. And these are people, they appear to me to represent who are very active in exploring the inner canyon and making its charms and rewards more well known. Harvey was very much respected by this organization in the early years. And then the second 7, these appear to be GCHS members who donated significant time and effort in service to the society. And here today we have Mike Anderson. Mike is sitting up here. We have Al Richmond. We have Mike Quinn. And those are the ones that are still with us for the second 7. And then for the third 9, these are living individuals who've made a significant and lasting contribution to our understanding and knowledge about the Grand Canyon. And then the fourth 6, these are the most recent winners. Eric Berg is here with us today. And these are historians and authors and others that were in the service to the society. Eric, you were president for 4 or 5 years. Thank you very much for that. So just looking at the first Pioneer Award, awarded June 14th, 1997, always at the annual picnic that's at Shoshone Point. A few years ago, we changed it to July because we were getting fired out from Shoshone Point. There were just too many fires in June, and we couldn't count on being out there in June, so we moved it to July. And in the bulletin for July 1997, at the annual picnic, the Grand Canyon Pioneer Society again honored Harvey Buchert by presenting him with our first Pioneer Award. The reason the word again is in there is because they had just honored him for his 90th birthday. And the plaque engraved with an inscription commending Harvey for his, quote, making the canyon accessible to a multitude of hikers and explorers for whom you have diligently served as a mentor in their quest to follow in your pioneering footsteps. And Jim Ullman, who was the president, he made the award in the presence of some 60 members, and they also acknowledged Lee Albertson, who was famous for getting the initial plaques made by inmates in the Arizona State Prison System. And he loved doing that because we could get them for virtually free using that slave labor. We have since moved away from that. And of course, here's a picture of Harvey. This photograph was taken in 1968, looking down at Conquistador Isle. And if that picture looks familiar to you, that's because it's the cover of the book by Elias Butler and Tom Myers, Grand Obsession, Harvey Buchert and the Exploration of Grand Canyon. And thanks to Gary Ladd, who also is one of the Pioneer Award recipients, he took this wonderful photo of Harvey and Roma at one of our Grand Canyon picnics. Now, I had a hard time getting photographs for Gail Burak, but anybody who was here in the 1970s and early 1980s will remember Gail. And she was given the second award for the significant contribution she made as a park ranger and a volunteer in the parks, and for being a mentor to visitors in the Grand Canyon backcountry in the areas of geology, natural and human history, and environmental awareness. And Gail was a force to be reckoned with. And I think we have a mature enough crowd here. The most famous story about Gail is when she was hiking up the South Kaibab Trail, and that woman could hike. And a young 20-something said, "Hey, Grandma, how's it going?" And she put her nose right in his face and said, "Fuck off, Sonny." And that was Gail Burak. The third Pioneer Award went to George Steck, who was also an incredible hiker in the Grand Canyon and did a through hike through the canyon. And here's some words about George receiving the award in 1999. And it mentions that for years, George Steck had to listen to people he met ask, "Are you the brother of Alan Steck?" who was a very famous rock climber and most people knew. And again, Gary Ladd took this picture of the two Steck brothers with Alan on the left and George on the right. And Gary was able to share some of these photographs with me of George hiking through. I remember one time I was on a river trip and there were two people standing on the bank holding a sign that said, "Get rid of your heavy beer." And they were looking for rides down the river to do these hikes that they wanted to do. I personally did not know Bill Suran, but he had a big imprint in this organization in the early years, and this is the plaque that Lee Albertson had made for our fourth Pioneer Award. The sixth winner was Gary Ladd. This is a photo that he shared with us. And then I also got a photograph here of our eighth Pioneer Award winner. This is the plaque that we gave to Al Richmond, who will follow me very quickly here. And just a few pictures from our picnics. There's Dr. Paul Schnur, who was the doctor here at the South Rim for many years, and there's Al at the picnic. Now, regarding the missing 4, these are the years that there were no awards given. I can only speak about why there was no award in 2015, and I've already alluded to that, is that we had nominations for people who were no longer with us. And the board decided at the time that this should honor living individuals, people who can still mentor and help people with the history of the Grand Canyon. So just in case you're wondering how any nominees are vetted and elected, all nominations are collected by the Pioneer Award chairperson. I'll probably be looking for somebody to replace myself that can carry on the tradition. But I do want to recommend that starting on January 1st, we will accept nominations for the Pioneer Award once again. And there's many deserving people, some of them in the room here. And if you'd like to submit a nomination, please do. And the information on how to do that is always in the Old Pioneer. So the chairperson then sends all of the materials to past awardees that are still living. So this is how they are elected, is that people who have received the award previously will be the ones that choose. And each of the people that are still living will rank those particular nominees first, second, third, or fourth, and a point system is attached to it. And this is really a fair way to do it because there might be one person who for some past winners will get high marks, and then other people will say, I'm going to give them low marks. If you get very consistent second place votes, you can rise to the top this way, and that's one of the ways that we do that. So the total points eventually produce an awardee. And here's a picture of Al Richmond giving a speech at the annual picnic at Shoshone Point. It's always the second Saturday in July, unless we are smoked out or fired out or something like that. I got a few pictures of people here. There's Kern and Cindy. We heard from Cindy earlier this morning. Dave is our chairperson, of course, for the symposium this year. One of the biggest attractions to the picnic is we have a barbecue, and there's our former secretary, Jack Pennington, and Ian Huff in the background there. Mike Quinn shared this picture. There's a picture of Mike and Rich Granberg. And at the time, Haley Johnson, holding up the plaque there, was not yet our president, but she was serving on the board. This is the first couple that we honored, Lois and Stephen Hurst. And I'm not going to attempt to read what's on that plaque right there, but you know that they worked and lived for many years on the Havasupai Indian Reservation. And they were the first awardees also for the Lee Albertson Award. In 2020, the award went to Jason Nez for his work here in the National Park and also sharing the cultural affinities of the Grand Canyon with a wider group. And here's the plaque that we made for Jason. This was given to him during the pandemic, so unfortunately he did not receive his plaque at the annual picnic. I met him in the parking lot right in front of the shrine, and just the two of us were there. And that's when I took that picture of Jason right there. So that was his award ceremony during the pandemic. So the Pioneer Award is given every year, and if you want to submit a nomination, please see the Winter Old Pioneer. The nominations are 500 words or less, and any time between January 1st and March 15th. So now it is my pleasure to introduce my good friend and colleague Al Richmond, who is a charter member of the Grand Canyon Pioneer Society. He was around in 1984 when this organization got started, which means next year we celebrate our 40th anniversary. And I'm just so happy to report that we have finally an official park partner to Grand Canyon National Park. And Al was telling me just before this talk that he initially started the process in 1998. That's the past century. And the former president, Dick Brown, and myself have been working on this current effort beginning in 2021. So, yay, we are there now, an official park partner. And Al, it's a pleasure to introduce you for your half of the talk.
Well, we're back. Okay. How do you start something like this? Well, you can blame the weather. In this case, we were out at Shoshone Point, and the weather took over. and we decided we had to run for cover. And at that time, Rob Arnberger, who was superintendent at that time, was there. He says, hey, let's go to the Ramada over by the school. So we did. We all ran for that, and we got over there, and we were sitting around there and just having a good time talking with everybody. And Rob and I got over there, and we just started looking at the people around us. We were just amazed at what these people had done for the community. We just looked at anyone and everyone that was sitting there, and we could rattle off things that they had done for the community, for the people that live here. And so we decided, after a few margaritas, I think, that we needed to create something that recognizes them, officially recognizes them for that community service. And so we came up with this. And we started in 1997. That's when we started talking about it. And the first award we gave in 1998. In recognition, it is hereby given by the Grand Canyon Pioneer Society and the National Park Service to these organizations and individuals who have selflessly contributed to the betterment of the Grand Canyon community over years past. And you can see the 3 plaques. And if you go out there and look at the north wall out there, you'll see them there. And all of these folks are listed out there. Any idea how many people are on those plaques and organizations? There's 61 of them in 25 years. We've been giving this award for 25 years. And Rob and I started talking about this, and who are we going to recognize for this? Well, we can go back in time, or we can just deal with the people that are here now, or we can recognize people who have done something and who are no longer with us. So we both agreed that was the thing to do. And so we do recognize people. Unlike the Pioneer Award, we do recognize certain individuals that have committed an awful lot of time and effort for this community. And we went back quite a ways. And I first met this individual up here in the upper left-hand corner in the center there. His name is Bill Lockridge. I was working on the Grand Canyon Railway history, and I came across this individual and followed him through his history in northern Arizona. And if there were a property in northern Arizona, and particularly in this region here, he surveyed it. And he surveyed the Grand Canyon Railroad. And so he came into this area in about 1897, 98, and he liked it so much, he built himself a cabin. And it's still there. Those are railroad ties. They don't go away. So it's still out there. He raised his family here. He raised his grandkids here. And he surveyed an awful lot of the properties that are in the canyon here and in the area. So he has really committed a tremendous amount of service. And guess what? He wouldn't take a dime for it. That was the way he was. This was Pop Lockridge. And like I say, his cabin is still out there. Not livable, but it's still there. Anybody recognize anybody in this picture? It's Emery Kolb on the left. Anybody ever see Emery Kolb in a Legion cap, an American Legion cap? Anybody know that Emery Kolb served in the Army in 1918? Yeah. So, but this picture was taken at the Legion Hut, which was out in Tucson at the time. And there's also Art Metzger. Now, both of these individuals started up something called the American Legion John Ivins Post, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And in the picture there also is Edith, his wife, and Edith is Emery's daughter, and Ethel is Art Metzger's wife there. Just wanted you to see that. But this is one of my favorite, down in the lower right there, my favorite photographs. I'm sitting there on the left, and that's Gene went on the right there, and we're just sitting there keeping our mouths shut except to ask questions. And we've got John Bradley there, who's one of the recipients. He did a tremendous amount of things for the community here in the canyon. And he's sitting there at Shoshone Point. We were sitting there for 45 minutes just keeping our mouths shut and asking questions. And just as he would tell us, well, I did this here and I did that. I took panniers of fish on down to Clear Creek. Well, I forgot to mention, he was a mule skinner. But he also did an awful lot of things for people like Mary Coulter. Do you like that fireplace that's over there at Bright Angel Lodge? Well, he hauled those rocks up from the canyon for that fireplace on his daily rounds down there. So I had some good times there, but we came up with categories. Individuals, of course, living awards, and we've given out 34 of those. Memorial awards, these are people that are no longer with us. We have 21 of those. We have organizational awards. We might have another one coming. And 4 of those for a total of 61 awards. These are some of the organizations. And all of these have contributed people that have contributed to the community. So what you're looking at is the American Legion, the Lions, the American Legion Auxiliary, and the CCC up there in the top, the Grand Canyon Railway, and its predecessor, the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe Railway, contribute a lot of people that did an awful lot for the community. Fred Harvey down there at the bottom. And its successor, the AMFAC and Xanterra, thank you. All of these people have, the organizations have helped the community in various ways, but it's the people in these organizations that have been contributing to the community. And we've also, well, 4 of those awards went out to the American Legion, the American Legion Auxiliary, the Rotary here in town, and the Grand Canyon, what is now the Conservancy, but when we handed it out, it was to the Grand Canyon Association. And who is this? Well, I can't, in 22 and a half minutes, go through 61 awards. I just can't do it. So we're going to pick on one, and we're going to start with the first award. And this is what Rob and I came up with. But I'll tell you about the, the organization, which, well, there's been all kinds of organizations like you see there, but the one that has really done, I think, the most collectively for the community is the American Legion John Ivins Post. And this is their 100th anniversary. How many people here know there's an American Legion post here at the Grand Canyon? Very few. Well, John Ivins, that's him there in 1918, about a month before he was gassed to death. He worked for Emery Cole, and he enlisted in. But when they decided to create the organization at that time, they had no real idea of how much that they were going to be putting into the community, but over the years they've done work in construction, community improvements, cemetery improvements, and we'll get a little bit of that too, Shrine of the Ages, ball fields, working with students, scholarships, sports sponsorships, can't even talk today, sports supervision, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boys State, Girls State, whew, patriotic educational programs, community food support programs, and community seasonal charitable programs. Well, Rob and I said, okay, well, in 1998, we'll have our first award. Who are we going to give it to? How are we going to pick someone out for this award? Well, we started looking at too many people, so we picked an organization, and it was the American Legion, because all of the things that they had done and the individuals in them had done. And we had a lot of fun that night. We had the Thunderbird room all to ourselves up there, and we had a bunch of people that were in there that were there to support someone else. So we had the Verkamps there, we had the Bell Guards there, we had the American Legion commander there, we had the commander for the American Legion Auxiliary, and all of these people were there to just honor someone else. And nobody knew that they were getting the award. It was always someone else. So when we got Jack and Betty Verkamp up there, we said, well, we need you up here to help us give an award to Buford and Myra. So Buford and Myra were just shuffled on up there, and they were just sort of overtaken with it. And after we gave them the award, they said, "No, how about you turn around here and give us Jack and Betty the award?" And so we just kept going with it. And then we also picked on both the auxiliary and the post itself. So, and then there was one other person in there, and she's in the lower left there. That's Mary Hoover. I think most of you might know or know of Mary Hoover. She was running around taking pictures of everybody. Oh, it didn't go? I'm sorry. All right, we'll back up. That's the Bell Guards in the upper left. That's the Verkamps next to it. And by the way, my photographs went away somewhere. I have no idea what happened to them. Thankfully, Mary was out there taking photographs. And so she had no idea she was going to get an award, but she was the last one. We called her up there. So we just had a real potpourri that night. We had a real grand time with everybody. But thankfully, she took these photographs here. We have the Bell Guards and the Verkamps and both the organizations. And then there's a guy on the right side there. That's Rob Arnberger. He attended an awful lot of our programs. He was at the picnics a lot. When he was in town, he'd come to the picnics, and he and I brought this award together. So this was not just a Grand Canyon Pioneer Society Award, it was a National Park Service Award. So what did this organization do for this community? Well, if you go right outside here, you can see a major piece of it. 1928, they built the first gate to the cemetery. This is a cemetery that the American Legion maintains. Well, the Park Service does an awful lot of maintenance out there, but around Memorial Day and other cleanup days, the organization gets out there and cleans up the place and does a pretty good job of it. And every Memorial Day for 100 years, we have had a ceremony honoring those who did not come home. And you are quite welcome to do that on Memorial Day at 11 o'clock. We'd be happy to see you there. Well, that lasted 78 years, that one that we put up there. And you can see down there in the lower left the people that were, besides the Legion, that were involved in it. It was the Park Service and the Forest Service. They were also part of this community, and they put their effort into this project too. But you can see the new one down there. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But this Buford got me into this. The previous year we'd been up here for Memorial Day, and we got to noticing that the log up on top there was getting quite rotten and need to be replaced. So Buford was going blind at that time. He says, "I can't do this, Al." He says, "I need some help. How about you doing it?" Well, how do you refuse a request like that? So we wrote the letters. I went up to see Joe Austin, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it. No big falderall, no fuss and feathers or anything." He says, "Let's do it." And he got Liam McGinnis in, his deputy. He says, "You work with Al on this, make it happen," period. That was it. That was the whole conversation. So we did. And Leah was a tremendous amount of help. And I went over to the National Forest, and because we needed to get a log to replace it. Well, we had to cut 2 trees to do it. One fell down, it was so rotten inside we couldn't do it, but if you look there in the upper right, that's the one that we picked, and so we got it there. They took it over to the yard, set it out there, stripped all the bark off of it, and prepared it for installation. And if you look in the lower left there, you see some masons working on it, and Leah got those folks. They were doing some other work, construction work here. She got them lined up to do it with the equipment, and 2 years later, we put the log back up on top there. And in the lower right there, there's Buford and I saying, hey, we like it. We had a good time. What else has the Legion been involved in doing? They built things. The first community building, pretty much almost all funded by the Legion. Jack Burkamp was a real builder, and he spearheaded almost all of these building projects. Well, the first one didn't last too long. It went in there in 32 and burned down in 36, so they had to do a new one. That's this one. 1936 built that one. And CCC got involved in this one also. So another community organization getting into it. They also got into building the new school in 36. So the Legion Post was really a bunch of builders. And there was one other building that there is no photograph there for. And that's because you're sitting in it. And Jack Burkamp, and you'll see another individual that I'll point out, were part of the organizations that really came up with the funding for this building and also got involved in some of the design and such. We had a grand bunch of folks that we just wanted to do the best that they could for this community. And we also had a bunch of doctors. Now we did design this so that any of the work that the people were doing, whether it was part and parcel of their organization or not, it was what they did specifically, not the organization, even though I'm talking about what the American Legion did. But we've had 15 of our awards go to Legion members who were not doing this as part of a Legion project. So they've got some really great community members here. And the doctors are the great community members also. Now, they had their jobs, but they didn't get the award for their jobs. Tom Meyer, you're going to see him tonight. Don't miss him. You don't want to miss him. Doc and Jody Wergler, two of the better friends I've had over the years. Finally able to get them both awarded. Now, I really like this photograph down at the bottom there. That's Dr. Leo Schnur. Now, he was also a Legion member, and the doctor, but he was really put his time into this building over the years. So you can thank probably Jack Burkamp and Leo Schnur an awful lot for this building that you're sitting in at the moment. We also had some good people in the Park Service. Again, not for their job, what they did as a Park Service, what they did for the community. And the ones that I really like there the most are Rob and Elvita Arnberger. They're both really good friends, been good friends for the community, and we finally wound up giving them the award also. I think Elvita earned it a lot more than Rob did, but in a lot of ways, because she really, really, really put in a lot of effort, time and effort for this community in a lot of ways. And over the years, on Memorial Day, there was one guy that always showed up on his horse. And Ronnie Gibson, I couldn't get a good photograph out of my cameras. His face was always dark, but the folks over here in the museum collection came up with this one. But Ronnie Gibson, we also honored him for his service to the community. And if you look in that collection of people up there, there's a fellow I think you just listened to a little bit ago, addressing, as president, addressing the group at the picnic at Shoshone. Shoshone, for the longest kind of time we were out there, there was no shelters. Now we have a shelter. You don't have a reason not to go out there for the weather now. Come on out. We'll see you there. And hopefully, you'll see other folks that are out there that are past members or some of the ones that we've already awarded here. And then you got a group of people like this. We always like to try to get a photograph of everybody here. And Beth over there, if you'll notice in her left arm there, she's not holding her award there. In her right arm, the plaque award is there, but she's got a little critter in her arm. She's accepting the award for the Grand Canyon Association at that time. And Wayne is standing there with, thank you. And so we got both groups there. The individual there in his wheelchair, that's the son of, just blew his name out, his first name out is Campbell. And and then Mary Hoover got into the act there, and it sort of disrupted that photograph, but I wasn't about to let that one go by. The guy in the upper right there is one I'm really particularly pleased with. During the pandemic, you saw what it did to Wayne in the Pioneer Award. During the first year, we were shut down at Shoshone, and we could not make that presentation because the people had gone back to Minnesota, and so we wound up mailing it to them. Never had the opportunity to meet them face to face. But the folks in the lower left, these were Xanterra employees, and they really let forth with some of the folks that are really doing a lot of the good work in the community. But going back to the pandemic, the people in the upper right hand, I really like that photograph because that was the second year of the pandemic. I'll be darned if we were going to miss out not handing them the award this time. Well, I'm going too fast and I'm losing my names. As it turns out, I really had a reunion, so to speak. I was in Air Force Pararescue, and my team was over there in California, and we used to go climbing down at the Pinnacles. And there was this young ranger down there who used to go out climbing with us and took real good care of us out there. Well, it turns out to be him. And that was a lot of years ago. So, but he worked an awful lot here in rescue. This is why I followed him, but I didn't realize him. I'd never ever caught his name before, but as we talked, I realized who I was talking to. And all of a sudden now, I've got an individual that I really owed an awful lot to, not for community service, just for the memories and the help that he gave my team over the years. And today, he is still serving, even though he is no longer in the Park Service, he is still training Air Force pararescuemen down at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And one of the things that people that have been doing things for the community, who have they been doing it mostly for? The kids, the schools. Well, this was our last award, the Yosts. And they've spent their lifetime at the school, it seems like, and they've done an awful lot in the community in a lot of other ways. And so they received our 25th award. And I don't know, I think I have sort of worn that one out, so who's next? I need your help. Like Wayne, I think 25 years is enough. I put 25 years into our scholarship, and our first scholarship awarder is still sitting right there, Mike. And we take our nominees from individuals within or without the organization for community service. Let us know what it is. We'll do some follow-up work on it, see if they're deserving of it, and then go through the award process and make sure they are recognized for their community service. So who is next is up to y'all. I don't select them. Yeah, I'm in the process of making the award, but I don't select them. I have selected some of the ones that the ones that have departed. There's not a lot of people around to select those folks, but they needed to be recognized. So I got into that process. So I need your help, and I'm also looking for a replacement. I think 25 years is enough. So anybody else would like to step up, I'd be happy to work with you and make this continue. So I thank you all. This has been a great day, and just sharing a podium with Wayne is just really great for me. So you all take care. Have a great rest of the symposium, and we'll see you next time around, I hope.